Will the housing market crash? Let's examine that. I'm Uriah Wilkinson with Coldwell Banker Realty. I've been selling real estate in Minnesota for the past 16 years. This question's been coming up quite a bit, and my answer to that is no, I don't think it will. You can ask any real estate professional, and they'll tell you, well, it sure feels like 2007. Yeah, it does. There are a lot of similarities, but there are stark differences as well. So let's go over a few of those. First, the similarities. The rising energy prices that are occurring right now. I think the most recent statistic was it's a 48% increase in gas prices. And energy across the board has been increasing. Well, sure, it has, but you need to look at the frame of reference to that particular number. If we look back 4 years ago and average out what the increase is, it's about half of that. So not to say that this isn't going to have an effect on people's wallets, but this was a similarity that had occurred back in 2007 that produced already a strained economy. Our economy currently isn't strained right now. There's lots of talk of a recession and what that's going to reverberate into the housing market itself. But let's take a look at what had occurred the last time around. So after the terrorist attacks in New York City in 2001, the Bush administration had deregulated the financing industry, which brought about different lending practices, or what everyone and what I will call predatory lending practices. You had something called the subprime mortgages that were being handed out. This was on an adjustable rate and given to those who were considered to be marginal or risky buyers. The goal was to get everybody into a home, and that's wonderful, that's great, but they need to be able to afford it. Another practice that was occurring back then was something called stated income. These things aren't allowed anymore. And obviously, when those rates adjusted for those individuals who were given these subprime mortgages, there was no way that they could keep up with the payments. So you ended up with a lot of individuals who lost their home to foreclosure. Well, thankfully, after the crash, we had kind of learned our lesson, and legislatively on both federal and state levels, we put some of these regulations back in place or created new guidelines that would prohibit such practices from occurring again. So we don't have that same sort of risky buyer out there. They need to meet a certain credit criteria, as well as their debt to income ratios need to really meet the parameters, otherwise they can't get a loan. So we have many more stable homeowners right now than we did back then. Another issue that had occurred back then as well was that there was a greater supply of rental units available. So a lot of the people who could have probably qualified for a home were a little shaky about it. And renting seemed like a good option, given that it was either equal to what it would have cost for a mortgage, or it ended up being less than what a mortgage would have been. So a lot of people went into rentals at that time and decided to hold tight until the economy improved. This time's a little different. We actually have, in our region here within Minnesota, a rental shortage. And this has driven up prices almost faster than house sales have gone up. And so right now, it's still more affordable to purchase a home than it is to rent. So as long as that trend continues, buyers are smart. They're going to recognize that if it's cheaper to buy a home and it's going to put them in a better equitable situation in the future, then they should probably do that. And they will, and they have been. So we can take a look at the rate. That rate right now is sitting at about 5.5%. I remember back in 2003 when that rate started to fall underneath 6%, and everybody was excited. You ended up with refinancing going on all over the place, and a lot of new buyers to the market that obviously led to the housing bubble last time. And can we say that this is occurring right now? Well, the rate is rising as opposed to dropping. It's not a bad thing. Historically, these rates are pretty normal at 6%. In fact, they've been much higher than this. Will it slow down the market a little bit? I hope so. You know, we do need something to even out a bit, and I've been hoping for this for the past 3 years, and I think that it will. Buyers are not going to be as willing to go well over the purchase price for a property, and this is going to create more inventory on the market because sellers are going to realize, hey, if I want to get the absolute highest price for my property, now's the time to do it. And I would agree. But that doesn't mean that we're going to have a housing crash. Not at all. So unless something happens in the development aspect to meet the demand of rental units, I think that we're still going to have continued demand. Might be evened out, but continued demand for properties. So we will watch that rate, because if that interest rate continues to climb to rates that are just not affordable based on what incomes are out there. If incomes aren't increasing at the same rate that the interest rates are, well, then that could cause another problem. However, you hear these words recession all the time. In the housing market, I just don't see a crash occurring. At least not right now. Thanks for joining me. Remember to like and subscribe, and please leave your comments.